I got a feeling you already know what time it is. This is Joseph F. Price in the house. Good afternoon, everybody. Everybody, good afternoon. Hope all is well for you. We're going to get started today. Got some basic stuff that we're going to work on today, and I'm going to give you my full attention right now and for the rest of this show. So, again, thank you for being here. Joseph F. Price in the house, and they know me as Coach Joey. So, today, what I'm going to talk about is something, I guess you could call it extended boundaries, or today we're going to talk about, I'd say, a sector of boundaries. And the sector of boundaries, remember, boundaries keep you safe. The sector of boundaries that we're going to talk about today is staying away from dangerous places, dangerous people, dangerous things, dangerous ideas, dangerous feelings. And so I invite you to get a pencil and paper today because of the fact that this is actually going to be a working session. I mean, you can sit down and just passively do what you do and get nothing out of it. Or you can actually pull out a pencil and paper, and an hour from now, you would have grown, in some cases, 6 months worth of recovery. I don't know. I can't really quantify it that way. But I do know that through the process of what we're going to do today, you'll be able to dig. The digging today is specifically digging into your behaviors so that you can learn some of the hot spots in your life. That's pretty much all we're going to do today. Gain data. But with that data, you can take that data and basically come up with a plan so that you can effectively deal with it. You'll see what it is that I'm talking about momentarily. Excuse me. Because what trips people up so often is that some wave of some sort comes into their life. And then all of a sudden they find themselves somewhere. And then if they don't have a plan of what to do at that moment, then they're kind of like they're in the water or in the wind, whatever metaphor that you'd like. And they just end up where they end up. Whereas, again, in a recovery strategy, like I've always been talking to you about, it's something that you actually do intentional. So today, basically, we're going to talk about uh, boundaries in that way and how to avoid people intentionally that are no good to you. That's pretty much what it is. And I don't know if you can right offhand list me like 50 different things that would be dangerous for you. The way my camera is structured, you can't see what I wrote down. Maybe you can. I don't know. Sometimes my camera doesn't work so well. Yeah, you actually can. Okay. So let's see. Can you see? Yeah, my camera works weird. So we're not going to do that. But the bottom line is I do have a list. Yeah, I have a little trick for everything. All right. So there's my camera. There's my little list that I got. All right. So I did the list today. And I invite you to do the list as well. So let's get into it, and I'll talk about how some of these things come to play. Because you missing these things, these are actually blind spots and so forth and so on, and you're missing them it basically is going to hinder your progress. So basically, let's look at areas of danger, and then let's look at areas that are safe for your recovery. Sorry we got to a slow start. Um, Today I actually did not feel like doing this particular one, but just like you don't feel like doing certain things, and your recovery will be about not wanting to do certain things, you have to do them anyway. And so, since I had two already planned and prepared, I figured I would do my best to do one today. So we're going to get into the meat of it. It's a little choppy on the intro, but the meat of today will make it worth your while. But again, while I was just rambling and rambling, if you'd be so kind to get a pen and paper, I'll make it worth your while, because it is like a working session. And this isn't about me. This is about you and you digging. And this really, the next couple minutes is really like, this is for like any addiction, because most of this stuff really, it's the same kind of thing that shows up. So let's get into it. Let me see. Was there anything that I missed? See, a lot of what goes on in your life, as I've always said, that let me build a premise. A lot of what goes on if you're living in addiction is that there's a whole bunch of randomness. You're not even thinking about anything that you're doing. You just do a whole bunch of stuff. And after a bunch of years, you're doing a whole bunch of stuff randomly, but it's not so randomly because you're deliberately doing stuff that you're not even paying attention to. And then after you do this stuff for like years and years and years and years, it becomes a way of life. And then after it becomes a way of life, you don't even think about it anymore. It's just stuff that you do. And so much of what you do that supports your addiction is what you want to do. It's what you're doing now automatically. So you want not to be addicted, but yet there's like 500 things that you're doing unconsciously that are actually feeding your addiction. If they're not feeding your addiction, they're actually threatening your addiction. And so some of the recovery work that you do, in addition to learning how to manage yourself, like I've always talked about, doing the healing, because of the fact that you do have you have some type of wound in your life, or you've created some type of wound in your life because of your porn use. So you're going to have to heal. You can't get around that. Healing and your lack of healing is the legs of your addiction. And then the third phase is you're here to do something. Each and every one of us has a purpose. Each and every one of us are here to do something. So that's really what you're here to do in the first place. All of this stuff is just stuff that's gotten in the way. So again, learning how to manage yourself, healing, because you've either wounded yourself because of this behavior, or there was an original wound that caused this behavior, and then there's a wound because of this behavior combined. So you're going to have to do some healing. I don't know what it is. What's weird is, like in my case, I actually did most of that healing before I figured out that it was time to get rid of the porn. So the healing part was a little bit easier for me. And then the third phase, again, is to get on and be about the business of your life passionately, in an excited, intentional, deliberate way. Create something that's magnificent and make a significant contribution to the world. That's what each and every one of us was put on this planet to do, you included. So that's why it's important to get rid of things that are dangerous, one, to your recovery, as well as things that are just dangerous to your overall well-being and mental health, because those things are things that are going to spill into moments that cause you to act out of in your addiction or want to act out in your addiction or somewhere in between. So again, not that eliminating everything that influences your addiction is going to solve your addiction, but it's going to make it smoother. You're going to have lesser of a pull. If you have good boundaries in your life, if you reduce the stress in your life, if stress is a big trigger for you, excuse me, if stress is a big trigger for you, you have to learn how to create a life that has less stress in it. I know that sounds simple, but again, this whole recovery process, it's more than, all this makes sense. As we go along the way, at first you didn't know anything. And then as you go along the way, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. And then you hear, oh yeah. Okay, here's what you need to know. You can know all that and know all this and know all that and have all the information in the world. That's not going to help you recover. You're not going to get better because it's not about knowing. It's about taking what you know and doing it enough times over and over again that it becomes you. And then when it becomes you, then you find that the porn is not around. Because again, part of this is that you are a person that does porn. And when you become a person that doesn't do porn, you're not going to do porn. And the thing is becoming a person that doesn't do porn, it's a process. And it's a deliberate process if you want it to happen in its normal course of time, which is about 4 or 5 years. If you want it to take 15 years, then, you just do it under zero guidance and support. It might work. I don't know. I wouldn't take a chance on it because it's too much at stake. Because first of all, here's what I often think and know that I'm fighting. I know that porn use escalates some way, somehow. It escalates. It always escalates. Why does it escalate? It escalates because of the fact that it's a neurochemical addiction. And the process of porn, masturbation, and orgasm is a neurochemical cocktail, sends a neurochemical cocktail to the brain that the brain's not equipped to handle. So what the brain does is it desensitizes itself. It says, whoa, 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 hold up. And as a result of it desensitizing itself, and I'm talking in layman's terms here, what you do to compensate for it is you do more. And so your brain is always, because it wasn't made to watch porn unless if you didn't get the message, your brain wasn't meant to handle porn. Your eyes weren't really meant to see all of that. It just wasn't. And all of this hyperstimulation wants more hyperstimulation. So it just escalates. And then if it's not this porn, then it's that porn. Then and then people, that's taboo. Oh yeah, but somehow I like it. They say, and then this and that, and then this and that. So basically, I'm trying to stop that. And then people, before long, their compulsions run so wild that it's just crazy. And then before long, their sense of reality gets blurred. Their sense of what is fantasy and what is fact, that line gets blurred. So this is what happens. And in addition to that, there's a a podcast coming out next. I don't know if I'm going to do that right after. I'm starting to feel better as I'm getting into this. So I might actually do this right now. But the one that's coming after this is about the pornified mind, which really goes into how that brain operates and how it's pushing you and how it's taking you somewhere, and it talks about the components of your mindset. Obviously, in an hour or 40 minutes or however long it's going to take to record it, I can't tell you how to change all that stuff, but I can tell you what it is so that you can start looking at it and then adjusting it. So that's the next session that's coming up, is the pornified mindset. So let's get down to what it is that we're here to talk about. And as I was thinking about this, in a word, it's toxic versus healthy. That's really in a word. I talked about it. We're going to talk about dangerous places, people, feelings, things, and people. But it's really toxicity in those areas. And then we're also going to talk about the flip side of that so that you can deliberately go for it. Because if you, again, don't know what to look for, how is it that you're going to find it? And basically, instead of you trying to find it, I'm just trying to speed up the process so that you can help yourself. Because, like, I just finished showing you a whole list of stuff. If I was in recovery, and as a matter of fact, the stuff on my list is the stuff that I do now every day, pretty much on both sides of the list, pretty much. But I do know it's the stuff that you need to do right now. And it is the stuff that I definitely did at a very high level that first year. So that's my story, and I'm gonna stick to it. So I'm gonna turn off my boy and this music so we can get all the way down to work. Let's go. All right. So let's talk about people in your life in the context of recovery. Because I mean, I'll tell you this until till the day I die. This is really, really important. This is seriously important. You become the 5 people that you spend the most time with. You cannot get away from that fact. If you look at the 5 people that you spend the most time with right now, and you take a look at the averages of those people in various areas of their life, you can find that that's you. So the people that are in your life are very, very important because of the fact that they, number one, they're in your circle, and number two, that they can influence you, and number three, I mean, you let your guards down, your hearts down, and again, these people can impact you in big ways. And like I said, when we were talking about healing, healing's usually because of something that a person did, right? So again, it's important to deliberately remove the toxicity out of your life. It's this journey's hard enough as it is. And see, it's the toxicity that gives the weight, it gives the fuel that keeps you over and over and over and over and over again doing the same old thing over and over and over again. And that's one of the reasons that you're stuck. So again, I just, say the same old thing over and over again. And I don't mean to wear you out with it. If your strategy of recovery is, you know, willpower and fighting it out and discipline and I can be that strong, and all that kind of stuff, you're barking up the wrong tree. And the thing is you're being hard headed because this is not a behavior issue only. This is an issue that's a behavior issue and that's got all kinds of other different components to it, like low emotional IQ, all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. A lot of shame that the people there's such a mixture that the faster that you can see what the components are in the addiction and eradicate the components, the faster you can get rid of the addiction. So if you're not looking and discovering and digging and mining the components, you're missing out. And the interesting thing also is that there's no like um blanket component list. Oh, all these components pertain to you, or all these pertain to him. It's like some pertain to him, some pertain to him. I mean, your journey's individual. The individual battles that you have to attack with this are individual to you. So let's talk about the things that we'll start with people, because really people really do have a lot to do with how it turns out for us. So, what I found over the years is like family members, man, they can be dangerous people. And why can family members be dangerous to your recovery? Because, first of all, they can trigger us. Second of all, they don't allow us to have any growth. I mean, we're always going to be the same person that they have an idea of, no matter what. I mean, it really takes some serious, like, earth shattering, you got to be like Muhammad Ali, or, you just have to like take yourself off the charts sometimes for these people to ever acknowledge you as anybody other than the snotty nosed person that they remember. They'll try to make you that snotty nosed person forever. And sometimes it's bad because it's the very thing that keeps you stuck. So you need to know whether and who is toxic. Because, I have people, they get around a certain person, and then the next thing they know, all of the momentum that they've created in their recovery goes down the tube. And then they feel terrible and they self-soothe by using their favorite addictive behavior. So again, you got to know who is it that, for lack of a better term, who pisses you off, like, to an extent that you become uncontrollable. You have to manage that relationship. And it's really important to manage that relationship now, because what they can do is they can piss you off today, and then that can linger into next week. And then all of a sudden, next week, the person has the slip when something else stressful happens in conjunction with that trigger of the family. All right. So, bosses can be triggers. Um, when we're talking about people in this context, dangerous people. All right. So, I mean, I don't know what your deal is, and I ain't trying to be funny, but I'm trying to be funny, but I ain't trying to be funny. But, I don't know who it was, when you were growing up that you was watching porn with, you know what I mean? And, you might still be hanging with those people, and they're still your friends and such and such and such. I'm not here to tell you anything about shutting the doors on any relationship. But what I am here to do is tell you that as you go through a new life, you have to manage that relationship a little bit differently. So, I mean, you could do one of two things. You can either draw boundaries. That's really hard, especially an old friend. But, this is about recovery. So you can either have boundaries about what is acceptable, and they can either live within the boundaries. You can do it that way. Or you can spend less time around that person. I mean, that's the kind of thing that you have to do. You have to do that in every place in your life. And now I don't know how many different friends that you have. Because one of the things I can tell you as somebody that's recovered, and I didn't think that if you asked me this like before I recovered, I wouldn't have told you this, but not that I always told dirty jokes, but I didn't mind telling dirty jokes, but like I don't tell dirty jokes anymore. And I'm able to tell jokes without even doing that. And then if I really want to tell a dirty joke bad enough, I can use somebody else live without doing it myself. So that's the kind of thing like, no, I'm not going to do it. I don't have to do that. Like there's so much other stuff that's funny, right? That I don't have to do that. And that'll be something that we'll talk about also in the next session too, because some of that talk is actually degrading the women, and that's part of the pornified mindset that we'll be talking about. All right, so people that are toxic to you, unhealthy relationships, unhealthy friendships, period, because they cause you stress. People that want to be negative and they want to take up a lot of your time. I mean, now is the time to really evaluate every part of your life, because that's really what recovery is all about. Recovery, in the real sense, if you really want to get down to it, if you really just want to do recovery right, what is it? I'm not trying to be too funny, but it's like life or God through life, or both, or any way you want to put it together, is saying, excuse me, what you doing ain't working. And it ain't ever going to work anymore. It might actually even work for you at one time, but excuse me, it's not going to work anymore. And so you either are going to fix what you need to fix, or you can just keep on playing the game. But what has happened is it ain't working no more. And that's really the call of addiction recovery. When the person has that wake up call, that day when it's like, okay, maybe you don't know where to go, but whenever that person has that day where, okay, I think I need to do something. That's what the call is. It's not about all this, this is, I'm not gonna take a cold shower, all that. No, addiction recovery. The call is, yeah, overhaul. It's like it's like all of the dashboards in a car light coming on simultaneously. That's what it is. It's just not all the lights. You just need somebody to tell you it's all the lights, because it is all the lights. And the thing is I can tell you over and over again, having seen it over and over again, is that the people that embrace that, the concept that I just told you, that it is all of these dashboard lights and it's telling you need to change all these different things. It's not like they're going to change overnight, but you got to change things. You didn't get here overnight, and you change things to get here. So you got to change things to get to where you want. And that's just a reality. So you change things, and that's all it is to it. All right. And one of those is you change your exposure. How are you exposed to people? What are you reading? Shock jocks. There ain't no more time for shock jocks. There's not, anything that's disgusting talk that's degrading to women. I mean, I never thought I would say this in public. You need to cut it out, because it's really not going to serve you, and it's not going to help you. And it's actually feeding that mindset that's going to keep you stuck, and is actually dangerous to your recovery, because it's dangerous to who you are. And it's also dangerous to who you need to become. All right. So Let's talk about unsafe places. No, I mean, like, can't you name a few? Like, as you're going through this transition, there, whatever place that was dangerous in the first place, you know, you need to stop. You don't really need Joey P to tell you, but you know, some of those places are like movies you go to, you know, because some of this is online, some of it's chat girls. For some people, this is tough. But again, how bad do you want your recovery? I'm just telling you what you need to adjust. I'm telling you the stuff. You do what you want. Some people like they might need to chill out on the beaches, chill out on the pools for the first year, not go to the hot tubs. Obviously, don't go to nude clubs. But those are places that, you know, that's not good for you. Maybe bars, period. You know, old places where you were doing wild stuff. Don't go there because they're triggering. Obviously, not swingers club, right? I'm not trying to be too funny. And then here's where a lot of guys get in trouble, especially when they first start this journey. Business kind of guys, or even people that do a whole lot of travel, is that, you know, travel when you're by yourself, that's an opportunity for you to get in trouble. Excuse me, especially if you're in a relationship. Now, on the flip side, when your spouse goes out of town, it's almost the same thing when you're at the house. Because it's not that you're traveling, that's all of it, or that they're going, that's all of it. One of the biggest things is the two big, like three big things that's going on in this dynamic. There's a tinge of loneliness, there's a tinge of boredom, and my camera messed up and it got me. Oh, I wish that wouldn't happen. There's a tinge of loneliness, there's a tinge of boredom, and what was that? I had it right in my. I'll come back. So if you don't have a plan, my pen hit the ground. If you don't have a plan, something's going to happen. If you don't have a plan for yourself, somebody in this devious world has a plan for you. Something they want you to get into, some trouble they want you to get into, something that they want you to buy into. So it's important that you have a plan. When you're by yourself, you're lonely, you're tired, you don't know what to do, the environment's different. So you need to have a plan when you're by yourself and when you go away. Sometimes the plan is just making a phone call. And thanks for that little break there. Throat's getting a little bit tired there. Let's see here. You know, some of the unsafe places are, like I said, strip bars. For you, it might just be bars, period. For you, it might you might want to chill out on the alcohol a little bit too, because you know we find that alcohol enhances stuff. Um, so that's a dangerous place. All right, so let's move on to routines. We talked about travel when you're off your routine, when you're lonely, when you're in a different place, you don't have your normal structure, you're out of your game. You need to have a plan. Many people have unsafe routines. So why don't you have a safe routine, like a normal routine? for bed, a normal routine for when you're by yourself. Some other routines that are unsafe is like if you're listening to like music that's all sexualized, you have to turn that off. You have to turn off any kind of site that is unsafe, stimulating sexually, no fans only. No, nothing like that at all. No TikTok, no Instagram where you're sitting around there looking at girls that way. No Facebook where you're sitting around. Anything like that, it's really unsafe. And if you want to be a different person, you got to act differently. It's a lot of people, they want to have something and they think that they just can do something to have something. You have to be it first. Nobody has anything if they weren't it first. And nobody keeps anything if they don't become it. Those people that get all that money and they don't become millionaires, they lose it. Those people that get all that money and they become millionaires, they keep it. So, again, be, do, have. So you have to become and be a person that is healthy. We're going to talk about that momentarily, but that's what you have to do. And you can't be nor do unhealthy if you expect to have healthy. It doesn't make any sense. That's why we're on this mission to eliminate toxicity. This one comes up all the time. Sexting and porn of my girlfriend. Man, that's porn. Sexting and pictures of your naked girlfriend or wife. It's porn. And it's no. The problem isn't that you're looking at. The problem is you're looking at pictures. And we can go into it later. I got a nice story about that one day. If you listen to enough of my podcasts, I got a mind-blowing story about people and pictures and their girlfriends. I do. Promise you. All right. So what else do we got here? Oh, yeah. This is a big one for me. Dangerous routines. Picking up the phone the first thing in the morning. Like I always tell people don't pick up the phone for an hour. Use the hour, especially like if you're in recovery, because you can use the hour to clean up and do this and eat breakfast and then do some, recovery work, 10 or 15 minutes before you use the phone. Because what happens is part of today's porn addiction, since most people we're at the porn level and we're not way beyond that. You can't have supremacy over your phone and have a porn addiction. See, what I'm saying is that it's not just the porn, it's also the phone. And I always boldly say, I know that if you haven't heard me or heard my work before, the first thing you do in the day within 3 minutes, if not the first thing, you pick up the phone. And I shouldn't know what you're doing. And that's part of what you need to not do. And maybe that's because there's a lot of people around you doing that. And that might be a dangerous routine, doing what other people are doing just because other people are doing it. See, again, your journey is unique. So some of the things I talked about, they don't really pertain to you. Most of them do, though. So let's finally talk about emotions and feelings, because those are going to be the thing that drowns you or has drowned you. And then you're going to want to self-soothe and then or escape in some way, shape, or form. Or I'm not saying just because you want to doesn't mean that you do. And I am going to say that you want to with a little bit of confidence, because that's why we're here, because you've been wired that way. And when you've been wired a different way and you have some patience and allow that wiring to kick in, you'll start to act a little differently and think a little differently. So in the addiction business, years, they've had this thing called HALT, HALT, first of all. And it stands for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And I say HALT, HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, sad. And since I'm extra, I say BHOLT, bored or broke, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, sad. BHOLT, bored, broke, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, sad. BHOLT. All right. So when you are experiencing any of those emotions, we're weak in resistance. So those are hot spots. So when you know that you're experiencing those and you're experiencing what you're calling cravings, you can address those halts: hungry, angry, lonely, tired, sad, and then a B in front of it, bored or broke. Okay. Those are hot spots. Don't take them for granted, because when you get this way, you've been inclined in the past to want to self-soothe. Another time is when you're full of a bunch of stress. So you have to learn how to deal with stress much better. One of the things I'm going to talk about somewhere, I don't even know. Yeah, actually the opposite, because I'm working my way backwards. One of the things that's good for stress is exercise, and that's one of the things that's a healthy behavior anyway. It's healthy in all the regards. You're going to find healthy people. You're going to be in healthy places. It's a healthy routine. And also, as a result of you doing it, it's going to create healthy emotions. So that kind of falls under all the categories, exercise. Now, negative emotions period are unsafe. So everything that you can do about negative emotions, but obviously, the neat thing for you is that we find that until people get off the porn, until they do some of the work, you only really experience like 4 emotions anyway: happy, sad, lonely, and angry. Like there's a whole dimension of emotions, anxious. I can go on, but you actually really they're like, it's not that broad. So that's one of the things that will happen as you grow, is that you'll start to really experience like real experiences more than just the simple things. Any negative sensation, guilt, shame, disempowerment, all of those things, lonely, doubt, you got to take care of yourself. You got to learn how to take care of yourself. Not self-soothe, but take care of yourself. Because it's in taking care of yourself. Even though you can't fix some of the things that are going on, it takes the sting out of it. When you're experiencing a sting and you're not taking care of yourself, it gets worse. So that's about the best I can do on bringing up all the toxic ones. Toxic to your recovery. Let's talk about what's actually the good stuff. This is what you really came here for. And I really do hope that you wrote those down, or at least take the time to go back. And I guarantee you, whatever, these are just ones I thought about, just ones that came to mind like quickly. today for me, since I knew we were going to have this discussion. But there's so many more for you that are toxic in terms of people. There's specific people that you might want to write down with your name. You might want to come up with a plan with regard to those people. There are specific places with the name. You know the name. You need to write that down. The specific name. There's stuff that you do. I mean, like just going down the wrong highway, going into the wrong town for some people is enough to get the whole battle in the wrong direction started. And then again, what are the emotions that you find triggering? And obviously, it's one of the halts: hungry, angry, lonely, tired, sad, bored, or broke. Um, I mean, doesn't take a whole lot of research on that one. So anyway, that's the negative side. Let's talk about the positive side. Let's talk about feelings first of all. We'll go back from the bottom. Ways that you can healthy things with regard to feelings. Look, if you have a recovery plan that's intentional, that has a bright future attached to it, and you have mentors that you have a contact with that have been through this, and you know that they're just going to tell you what they did, and you also know that they can recognize patterns, so they can recognize things as you do them, and even better things before you do them. It's going to speed your process up. That's the whole. That's what mentors and a plan is to do. Okay, it's not, like I said, addiction is random, recovery is intentional, and if you want to do the same thing you've been doing, which is random, give me some advice, I'll take some tips. No, this is an intentional plan, which we're coming up with 5,000 different ways to have different soldiers, because that's how aggressive we have to be. Because if we're not aggressive, then we keep doing what it is we're doing. It's that simple. That's one of the things that's missing. And look, you can either get really aggressive now or destroy your marriage or destroy something. By the way, like divorces these days, it's like $1,000 in lawyer fees for some of these estates. You can do that, or you can like do some of the work that I'm talking about, which is discover and work your stuff out, and find different ways to entertain yourself. You can do that and have a better life. So anyway, you're really going to be the one that's going to make the final choice. You're going to make the final choice. I made my choice a long time ago about that, and bottom line is that's not the one that I got a problem with. All right, so when we talk about emotions, I think that bleeds into what I said I'm going to talk about in the next session, which is the mindset. And one of the mindsets of somebody that is in addiction is that you do what you want, when you want, how you want, because it's the way you've always done it. And okay, that's a fact. But that's not going to get you out of the addiction. That's not going to give you the goal that you're searching for. See, you doing it the way that you've been doing it is not going to get you there. You can't get to a place you haven't been by driving down the same road. It's not really going to happen. All right. So let's move on to very, very, very safe routines. And yeah, I'm a Christian. I put it out there. So i- if you're not a Christian, all you have to do is accept Christ as your Savior. Tell him you want him to be your boss, and find a Bible believing church, and they'll tell you the rest. It's not that hard. But yeah, I would say that safe places are churches. They really are. It's going to be a safe place for you. Um, Listening to podcasts are safe places. A bedtime routine is a safe place. Library is a safe routine. I'm sorry, routines is what I'm talking about. Reading is safe. Having a schedule is safe. These are some of the things that are safe for you. Like when you don't have a schedule, then you do something random. When you have a schedule, you have something that you follow. When you have a morning routine, that's something that you follow. And that's really important, especially in your first year. You really do need to get a new morning routine. I have no idea what it is you're doing, but whatever you're doing, it ain't working. And I'll start with this. As a life coach for many years and a motivational speaker for a bunch too. This business of hitting the snooze button on your alarm clock, that's Boulder Dash, man. Cut it out. When the alarm clock goes off, if you're going to use one, get up. Forget about that hitting the snooze button. And again, I don't have all day to do this, but here's what I'm saying. When you hit the snooze button, you're hitting the snooze button. So think about it this way. You just woke up and the first decision that you're making that day is to slack. What if you made a decision to get up? What if you made a decision to get up and get in a cold shower? So, within 5 minutes, you're doing something that's hard that you don't want to do. I'm just saying. All right. So, what else do we have here? All right. So yeah, there's a lot of things like routines that are good for you to do. Like you've got to have a daily routine. Have a bedtime routine as well. Listen to podcasts on a routine basis, and then forget about this. Oh, I listen to a podcast. Now, if you ever listen to a podcast where you are, get yourself a notebook and a piece of paper. Like I'll say over and over and over again, and just write the stuff you learn. How is it possible that you're going to remember all that? First of all, unless you got some kind of memory, you're not even going to do it. And second of all, you're not even doing the basic things so that you remember, which is taking notes. I said it earlier. If you take notes, your memory of what it is you're talking about goes almost to 50%. If you're talking to yourself and talking to the person at the same time, it's almost like 80% if you're taking notes at the same time as you're learning. So don't ever come to the party. This is the party. This is like a buffet. Don't ever come here or any kind of party or buffet where we're learning stuff. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about a party. I'm talking about learning. I'm talking about when you're in an environment where there's knowledge that can make a difference in your life being thrown around. Do not go there without a pen and paper in your hand. Because a pen and paper is a lot better than any kind of memory. It's a lot better than the best memory in the world. I'm sorry. It is. All right. So church is a good place for you to be because now we're talking about places. Recovery groups are good places for you to be. Schools are good places for you to be. Libraries are good places for you to be. Places that are peaceful, water, groups, gyms. Obviously, I told you exercise is going to be all over the place. I know you got a ton of places that are safe, that are nurturing, that make you feel good. One of the things I've always told people over the years, you can do this if you want. It's up to you, like everything else. This stuff goes in a first aid kit anyway. If you're actually writing it down, then you put it somewhere, right? And then when you feel like being a fool, instead of taking a, oh, I'm not gonna do, take, so you pull out that stuff, and it's like, and you see all the reasons why you don't want to do this, and you have an essay where you say, oh, this is why I don't want to do this, oh, this is all the benefits, oh, I got this, you got all this ammunition right in front of yourself. Nah, I don't think I want to do that. It's a lot better than, oh, I'm gonna take a cold shower or something like that. Come on, man, you can do better than that. So when you listen to a podcast or you get any kind of information, hopefully you're listening to podcasts and hopefully you're actually reading some books. When you do that, please pull out the pen, pull out the paper, write it down. If you write it down, it gives you a greater retention. And it's like some ideas have greater value to different people than others. You need to know a lot of stuff, but it's like you never know that one thing. When you're really in recovery, it could be one thing that really gives you a lot of momentum. It's not going to make the whole difference, but it gives you a lot of momentum that can change how difficult the ride is. It's never going to be one thing. It's never going to be like one thing that's going to make the difference in you recovering or not. Is life perfect? Is it that this one incident doesn't happen, or does life treat me right every single day? It's never going to come down to one incident or instance or something making the difference. Like, if that's what your recovery strategy, oh, if they were nice to me, then I wouldn't have. If that's your recovery strategy, I can tell you, don't do it. Like, I don't even take emergency calls because people say, "Oh, can I call?" There's no emergency, because the thing is like, if you think that you, you talking to me is going to make the difference in you failing in this recovery journey, it's like there's something missing, because you talking to me or anybody else, if that's going to make the difference in you failing or succeeding, then you don't have any kind of recovery. That's like trying to win the Super Bowl, and you don't even have a team. So that's all I got to say about that. All right, so safe people. I mean, that's kind of speaks for itself. Like us, I remind you, this is the essence. This is the juice. You become the 5 people you spend the most time with, and people do have an influence on you. So you got to have mentors in your life. You got to have coaches in your life. You got to have pastors in your life. You got to have people that have been through this journey already, because it's not foreign to them. They've been through it. They're not guessing. Therapists, group leaders, people that make you feel good about your recovery. You need to have healthy relationships, period. Just healthy relationships, period. Again, in the next session, we're going to talk about the porn mindset. It wreaks havoc on relationships. It really does. It just totally wreaks havoc. So that's stuff you got to fix. So I'm done for now. I've actually figured out how to keep it within an hour, which is kind of cool. I'm Joseph F. Price. You can reach me at Coach J2020 at gmail.com, Coach J2020 at gmail.com, or leave me a message wherever you may be getting this media. I wish you well. Again, take it one step at a time. This is a journey. You didn't get here in one day. You're not going to leave this place in one day. You're just not going to do it in one day. You got to work this the same way that you worked to get here. It took a lot of effort. It took a lot of time. You might not have thought of it as effort, but it was effort, and it was time, And if you want a different life, if you don't like the way it is right now, if you don't like how it is, if you feel that you're compelled by, uncontrollable sexual behavior, then you need to get to work. And that's what we'll talk about. So reach out. I'll talk to you soon. Hit like, hit subscribe. We'll see you next time. As always, drive with care, walk with caution. God bless you. See you.